Hey, this is Walt from the StogieReview.com here once again for another weekly cigar review. It's been a little while since I had the opportunity to do one of these with Cigar Fest and planning for Cigar Fest and server problems with the website, which are looking like they may be over, but we're not 100% sure yet. So please just go down this bumpy road with us and just keep struggling right along with us. Hopefully this whole website thing will be straightened out soon enough. Any rate, cigar I'm doing this week is something that is a little different. Apparently it's not very well known at this point. It is available for purchase from Outlaw Cigar, and it is a Nestor Miranda product from Miami Cigar. This is a special selection Ruky. Now the Ruky is what is being called a mini Salomon, and it's being designated as a Ruky because that's Nestor Miranda's nickname down in Miami. Friends and whatnot refer to him as Ruky. But this is a mini Salomon. I'm not real sure of the size. Actually, I don't have a ton of information on it. You know, I just looked at, I just happened to find a thread on the Outlaw Cigar forums. I wasn't even aware that the Outlaw store had a forum. But actually, you give me a second, I'll look it up and see if I can find it. But at any rate, this cigar was given to me actually at Cigar Fest. I was given a sample before Cigar Fest. My local Miami cigar rep sent me a message on Twitter asking me to meet up with him over at my local shop at Kensington if I was free one particular morning. So I shot over there, met up with him, had a cigar, you know, chit-chat a little bit, and he hands me the cigar and he tells me, hey, you know, this is something a little different, you know, give this a try. But he says, you know, hold off on smoking it until later in the day because it's the most full-bodied special selection blend, and it'll really put you through the ringer if you smoke it too early. Now this is a Don Pepin Garcia blend, as are all of the special selections at this point. There was a transition from STC Cigars, which is George Rico's father. Now, there was a transition there. They moved from STC Cigars to Don Pepin Garcia product because there was a split. What's his name? I can't think of the guy's first name. But George Rico's father and George Rico, they split ways. You know, I don't know if they're on the outs or anything like that, but George Rico is producing his own product, the most popular of which is the GAR, G-A-R, and George Rico's father still does, you know, the Gran Habano and things like that. But I guess under assumption that there may be some fallout in quality and there may be a little bit of issue there, Nestor Miranda moved production to the strike while the iron's hot Don Pepin Garcia, and had the special selection reblended and reproduced, and that's what all of the special selections are at this point. And apparently this is fairly new, and it looks like it's not listed under their store, which is kind of strange. I'll have to dig a little deeper and see if I can find it later. But at any rate, this is what's called a mini Salomon. Again, I have no idea what the size is. I shot my Miami cigar rep a tweet just now, direct message, asking what the binder and filler are, if he can share that with me. And as soon as he gets back to me, I'll let you know. So let's get on with the review. Now, what did I want to say? Told you about the name being Ruky and being a nickname. I don't know if there's anything else of importance to tell you other than that this is expected to hit the market at this year's IPCPR trade show in New Orleans in August. But in the meantime, it looks like Outlaw is the only source for them. At least that's what Outlaw says in their forum post. So moving right along, the cigar, all in all, is beautiful. Very neat, very clean looking. The cap, which I cut off already, I probably should have showed you, has a tiny little pigtail on it. It's got the nipple foot It's got a nice shape to it. It's not spongy or soft down toward that shaped foot. Sometimes they're either rock hard or they're really underfilled right there, and they're kind of mushy. But this one feels pretty good. It feels like it's firmly formed. The wrapper, from what I believe, is a Habano Oscuro, very dark in color. It's got a lot of tooth, or otherwise tiny little dried up oily bumps all over it, and it actually does have sort of a sandy texture. You can feel those oily bumps if you sort of rub your fingers over it. The veins are practically black, and color variation is slim to none. There's very little color variation, maybe a little bit around a prominent vein, but even the most prominent vein doesn't stick up very much. There's just a slight discoloration as it, as you look down that vein. It's got a very heavy, sort of earthy, compost-like aroma to it, all over the cigar actually. And the pre-light draw is excellent, which is kind of a surprise. I had one 2 days ago, actually. The last night of Cigar Fest, I lit one up just to give it a try, because I got 2 more at Cigar Fest. And I was really surprised. I had a lot of cigars throughout the day, couldn't taste a whole lot, and this one managed to cut through all of that muck that had just built up. If you've ever had far too many cigars in the course of a day, your tongue starts to feel furry, as does the roof of your mouth and whatnot. And this one really cut through all that, and I could taste it. So it's got to be pretty potent, at least I would think, from what I can remember of it. And just like that first one, the pre-light draw is free. There's a little bit of resistance to it, but a lot of times when I smoke these cigars with the little nipple foot, I really expect them to be really tight, but it's not. So let's get down to it. Now, I'm not sure what the price point is on these. It looks like they're, from what I'm seeing on the Outlaw website and what I remember my rep telling me, these are going to be sold in boxes of 5. And just like you light a short story, you get the little nipple going, and before you know it, it just grows and the whole cigar begins burning evenly. So there you have it. I got my Nestor Miranda Special Selection Ruky lit, producing smoke, burning as evenly as it can for that little nipple shape, and I'm getting a good volume of flavor out of it, or a good level of flavor. So sit tight. I'm going to see if I can dig up some purchase information on this stick, as well as the binder and filler makeup, and I'll be back and we'll get this thing underway. So sit tight.
It's your boy Mo Sam's. My swag is so official. I need you to get like me for a second. Let's go. First we lean to the left, then we lean to the right. Turn it all around, then we bounce up on the ground. Shake, shake, shake the devil off. Shake, shake, shake the devil off. First we lean to the left, then we lean.
All right, well, welcome back. It's actually just been a few minutes, but this sample, exactly like the first one I had, is off to a miserable start as far as the burn is concerned, and I wanted to go ahead and show you that. Not necessarily go through the first third, but just show you the burn line that I'm getting with this cigar. And as you can see, it's considerably uneven. Now, I didn't want to just touch this up and then mention to you, oh yeah, it was way off, but I corrected it, just take my word for it. In this case, I just wanted to show you that the burn was off quite a bit. Now, generally, with this shaped cigar, the ones with the tiny little nipple on the foot, for example, the Oliva Series G Special G, or the Arturo Fuente Short Story, they both have these little nipples on the end. Generally, it doesn't take much to get them burning, and then as you begin puffing on the cigar opens up, and that burn line just spreads and engulfs, the entire thick ring gauge beyond, and you get a nice even burn. You know, and a lot of these sort of Salomon shapes, or just these cigars with a nipple foot in general, you know, because of the thick portion towards the foot, a lot of times you'll see a very long ash, and it'll have that perfect nipple shape on it. And it's just a beautiful looking ash on a lot of these cigars. But in this case, you can see where I touched up. It doesn't have the dark bands that everywhere else does. It's just burnt wrapper leaf. But you know, a lot of times it's got a very beautiful ash. In this case, it required a touch up, and I just had to hit it with a little bit of flame. And actually, you know what? I might as well just go right ahead and do the first third. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't, because we're just not far enough along. So sit tight. I'll be back in just a second when I get a little bit further, and we'll kick right off into the first third. Alright, well, it's been a few more minutes, so back once again to do that, that first third wrap up. And as you can see, since I did the touch up, the burn is considerably better. I mean, we still got a little bit of a waviness, but it's really not that bad. And if you pay attention to the dark lines in the ash, you can see where I touched it up as I come around the corner, and it's mostly white just from hitting it with the lighter. Now, you know, just like these shaped cigars, I've got that nice tight sort of formed ash, and it looks fantastic. You can see a lot of the little dimples and white blotches or white spots from the toothy wrapper. It's very interesting. I've got a little bit of flaking and flowering going on, but it hasn't made much of a mess at this point. As far as the cigar, just jumping past some of the things I mentioned up front right before this video, or this portion of the video kicked in, the body's a little bit surprising. Now, when I was handed this cigar, I'm pretty sure I mentioned in the first bit that my rep told me that it was the most full-bodied one of the line. So rather than spark it up that afternoon like I would have done and been a little surprised by the level of body, I held off. And I didn't smoke that cigar up until the other night. And you know, lighting it up now, it's almost 8 o'clock in the evening, Monday night. It's pretty full-bodied. I mean, you know, I can feel the strength in the pit of my stomach. You know, it's not making me sick, it's not overwhelming, but I can definitely feel it. There's a lot of punch to this cigar. Now, I'm sorry, there's a lot of strength to this cigar. In terms of body, it is full-bodied. I'm getting a nice sort of a silky texture on the walls of the mouth, on the tongue, and that is very much different from strength. My mistake on the terminology there. Strength being the nicotine level and sheer power of the cigar, body being the mouthfeel. Now, you know, the finish is kind of silky. It's got a nice creamy-like texture to it. It's easy on the palate. It's not really aggressive. It doesn't give you that stinging sensation on the tongue, doesn't hit you with a stinging sensation through your sinuses or anything like that. The flavor profile isn't overly complex. It seems very simple, very upfront. It's got a very rich cocoa flavor to it initially. As you expel the smoke and that flavor begins to subside a little bit, I mean, we're not talking like a minute or two after expelling the smoke. We're talking like 10 seconds. You know, that cocoa-like flavor begins to subside, and I'm getting more of just that traditional zingy, natural Nicaraguan tobacco flavor. Now, when you retrohale the smoke, get it through your sinuses, I'm getting a mixed aroma of leather and coffee. It's very interesting, very enjoyable. It's very full-bodied, very potent, and you know, I'm impressed. I think it's much better at this point than the other samples I've had. Now, granted, I haven't had the Pepin blended Nestor Miranda Special Selection. I had the older ones done by STC Cigars. So I don't know how this compares to the other special selections, but it's a world of difference compared to the ones that I have, the STC Cigars cigar blend. One of the things I wanted to mention, sort of sidetrack a little bit, was a question I got at Cigar Fest. I don't remember who asked me the question either. I just remember being asked about retrohaling. The guy said that, you know, it doesn't look like a retrohale on camera. You know, do a retrohale. And I do it far more often than suggested. I know if you read a lot on the forums, you'll see that people recommend you do it, you know, a dozen times throughout the cigar. You know, every 5-6 puffs, you know, at most, you should be putting a little bit through your sinuses. You're putting undue stress on your sinuses when you do it, when you retrohale. But for me, you know, I really like that added flavor that I get, or that added aroma that I get out of retrohaling. So I'm doing it probably 95% of the time, if not better. It's very rare that I do not retrohale the smoke. Now, I don't retrohale big clouds of thick smoke through my nose, but I do send some smoke from practically every puff through my sinuses. View it good, view it bad, I don't know. I like doing it. You know, smoke what you like what you smoke, that kind of a thing. I find the cigar that much more enjoyable, and I do it very often. Doesn't matter how full-bodied the cigar is, how mild the cigar is, I do it anyhow. And I've got, you know, I've had my fair share of those cigars that, you know, make your eyes water, burn your nose, all that, you know, unpleasant stuff. But I do it anyhow because I want that extra level, or that extra dimension of character out of the cigar, or aroma, or flavor, or however you want to describe it. It's just something that I enjoy doing, and that I'm going to continue doing, just because I mean, it's almost habit forming. You know, I take a puff, blow most of the smoke out, retrohale the rest, and there you have it. It's just in my routine, and there you have it. So to answer your question, yes, I do retrohale most of the time, and you know, I really haven't noticed any ill effects of it. I get sinus infections a couple of times a year. It's mostly around allergy season, so I don't know that it's actually the cigar that's causing the sinus infection any more than the allergens and pollen and dander and whatever else is in the air is causing the sinus infection. You know, I've been getting them 2, maybe 3 times a year, long before I started smoking cigars. The frequency of my infections hasn't picked up. You know, I've really, my sinus issue hasn't changed since I started smoking cigars, so I really couldn't tell you whether or not there is an adverse effect of increased retrohaling. While I'm sure there probably is, you know, I really haven't noticed it in terms of my day-to-day life. And you know, I've been smoking cigars like this for quite some time now. And there you have it. On the camera, it didn't look like anything came out. I certainly felt it. Actually, it was a little more than usual. And I'm getting that little bit of an eye water thing going on. But so far, the cigar is doing very well. So I'm going to take another break. I'll be back in just a minute. We'll go over the second third of my Nestor Miranda Special Selection Ruky. And we'll see how the cigar goes. So sit tight. Well, welcome back. It's been just about an hour now, and as you can see, I'm still plugging right along on my Nestor Miranda Special Selection Ruky, and the burn life at this point is pretty even and pretty thin. I just got past a transition where the burn line was a little thick. The black ring at the very tip was thin and dark, and just behind that I was getting a little bit of a blistering effect, and the wrapper was much lighter in color there. It was actually lighter than the wrapper color is here, so it was kind of dark, light, dark. So whether or not that really means anything to you, I don't know. I just found it interesting. Now the ash length of the cigar is much shorter than it was the last time I was on film. That's because it just dropped on me. I got a little ahead of myself, and I just figured, you know, these cigars generally hold on real strong, and you know, they get pretty long, but it just suddenly dropped off on me. Hit the table with a plop, and for the most part it stayed together. I just picked it up, tossed it in the ashtray, and then scraped up the little pieces that were, you know, remained. So it leads me to think that, or it leads me to believe that the tobacco inside the cigar is packed very well. It's not overfilled so that it's tough to draw, but it's not underfilled where the ash is weak and breaks apart easily. It's been very neat except for that one drop, and again, you know, I really should have been paying a little more attention to it and knocking it off as it got to about this length. As I entered the second third, there was a lot of progression across the board. The body picks up, I don't want to say considerably, but there's a progressive shift in the body. You know, it slowly transitions and it gets fuller. You get a heavier mouthfeel. It's thicker. It lasts on the palate a little bit longer. The finish is more drawn out. It's not, I don't want to say more creamy. It just seems to linger a little bit longer at this point. It doesn't give you that really thick, syrupy kind of mouthfeel, but it lingers. The flavors are more or less the same. I'm getting a very upfront cocoa flavor that transitions to just that natural sort of bitey or zingy Nicaraguan tobacco flavor. Gets you through the sinuses just a little bit, but that initial cocoa rush seems much thicker or much deeper at this point. Just that Nicaraguan tobacco flavor doesn't seem to have changed much. It's, you know, it's not much deeper or more concentrated at this point, but that initial cocoa flavor is. Get the smoke through your sinuses. I'm still getting this very rich, very enjoyable mixture of kind of like leather and coffee. It's very pleasant. Like I said, I should have been knocking it off right about then. But at any rate, the smoke rate of the cigar seems about average. I mean, you know, I haven't had very many of these. See, this is my second one, and I plan to have one more to follow this up right before the review's posted, but it seems about average. I mean, I've been going strong for about an hour now. I don't know what another cigar of this size would last me. The shape and size is a little unique. I haven't had anything quite in this sort of middle ground. It's not a Salomon. It's not, you know, that Special G or that that short story format. Here we've got something right in the middle. And you know, if I had to guess, I would think this is about average. The resting smoke, again, it's about average, and generally if I feel that the burn rate is average, the resting smoke is generally average. I don't have one and not the other. If I'm getting a ton of resting smoke off of the cigar, it generally means it's burning fast. But in this case, I've got a thin cloud coming off the cigar, and it's pretty potent. I mean, there are times when it sort of wafts my way and I feel like I have to bob and weave around the smoke. It really irritates the eyes, irritates the nose. It's a very pungent aroma. Definitely something that would be very offensive to the non-smoker or the occasional smoker, or, you know, throw in the wife factor, and this is practically, you know, raw sewage. It's very potent, but the flavor is great. I mean, and that's one of the things that I see often. If the cigar really stinks, it generally tastes really good. And you know, the milder the cigar, the less I notice the resting smoke or the room aroma. In this case, I've got a very potent, full-bodied, flavorful cigar, and it's just a pungent aroma coming off of this thing. It's kind of bittersweet. You know, there was something else I wanted to say, but it totally slipped my mind, and I don't know what it is at this point. I mean, I hate when that happens. You know, after the ash dropped off, it's it's burning well. You know, I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Maybe a little bit of the outer section of filler isn't burning quite like it should. I may need to touch it up a little bit. Generally, when that happens, I put it down in the ashtray, I start cleaning up the mess, and the cigar usually goes out. You know, I don't know whether it's because it's uninsulated, because there's no more ash to keep everything, you know, insulated and burning properly, or what the case may be. But if I have to touch this up, it's surely my fault for not puffing on it after the ash fell off. But still going strong. So, oh, you know, now I know what I was going to say, because I left myself a note. The strength of the cigar, it is definitely giving me that uneasy feeling in the pit of my stomach. I don't feel ill. I don't feel like I need to run and grab sugar because the nicotine is just too much. It's not over the top, but I can definitely feel the power of the cigar. But if you're someone that smokes a mild cigar or a mild to medium cigar, and you don't necessarily care for, not that you don't care for that feeling in the pit of your stomach, it's not like I enjoy this, but I guess I just become accustomed to it. If you're not accustomed to that little bit of queasiness from a load of nicotine, or just sheer strength, or whatever the case may be, you may want to sidetrack this Ruky and go for the standard special selection line, because the samples I've had were much milder. And if you don't mind that little queasy feeling, a little bit of sugar will generally take care of it. I'm gonna go grab myself a glass of iced tea, and I'm sure a couple of sips, and I'll be feeling 100% once again. It's generally, you know, a little bit of sugar helps the body break down the nicotine, from what I understand, and it usually resolves the issue. So I'm gonna go do that. I may need to touch up the cigar just a little bit. I've got to take a couple more pictures, see if I can dig around a little bit more. I still haven't turned up any information on purchasing this cigar. I know Outlaw says it's available, but I'm not finding it on their website listed under Nestor Miranda products. I'm just getting the Oscuro and the, I think it's a Rosado, or I guess they call it a natural. But I'm getting the two standard lines and not the Ruky. So I'm going to see if I can find it. And until then, sit tight, check out a few pictures, a little bit of music, courtesy of the PodSafe Music Network. And I'll be back. We'll wrap up the final third of this cigar, and I'll let you be on your way. Alright, well, it is time to wrap up my Nestor Miranda Special Selection Ruky. And as you can see, I've still got a pretty decent burn line. Slightly wavy, but I'm really not going to complain about that. Ash is tightly compacted, light in color. Very interesting when you look at it. You see the little white specks that change color from the little black toothy looking bumps all over the stick. Just a very well constructed cigar. The draw has been fantastic. I'm getting plenty of just very dense, flavorful smoke. Just a very enjoyable cigar to smoke. As far as the burning characteristics go, the smoking qualities, it's been a fantastic cigar. The only real negative issue I had, which really isn't all that negative, was I got a little bit of a tar droplet starting on the clipped head of the cigar. And, you know, it happens to the best of them. Every once in a while it pops up. And all I had to do was just reclip the cigar. I took probably 1/8 of an inch off with a Zycar cutter, just a guillotine cutter. And tar droplet went away, and, you know, everything is as it should be. You know, once again, just like the second third, the cigar begins, it seems to be progressing across the board. There's more body at this point. The finish is even more drawn out than it was. It's a little creamier. The strength, I'm still getting that feeling of a pit in my stomach. Took a couple of sips of iced tea, which seems to help it along, but it hasn't resolved it quite yet. Flavor has transitioned a little bit. I mean, it sticks with this rich cocoa flavor for most of the cigar. It's actually just transitioned, just maybe half a dozen puffs ago. It's transitioned to more of a bitter chocolate flavor. And as that subsides, you still get the nice zingy or bitey Nicaraguan tobacco flavor. Just very upfront, deep, rich, really enjoyable flavor combination. They're not so close together that they sort of blend into one another, but not so far apart that they just seem odd. You get this nice, you know, rich, bitter chocolate cocoa flavor, and then a few seconds later it transitions to that just very comfortable natural tobacco flavor that, you know, I've come to really enjoy in a lot of cigars. Through the sinuses, I'm getting that same mixture of leather and coffee, and you know, I'm finding that aroma through the sinuses very rich, very complex. It's just a very good combination of aromas and flavor and just everything. You know, I think the cigar is a real winner. As it gets shorter, as it gets about this long, it begins to get a little warm. Now you really get the sense that everything is backed up in the cigar, and you're just getting everything. Sort of like the filter that is the tobacco is beginning to overflow, and you're just getting a little bit of a bitter flavor. It's just kind of, it's getting rough, really aggressive, but it's certainly not over the top. I'm not going to pitch the cigar. I'm going to keep going with it a little further. You know, I've really enjoyed it up to this far. The cigar is beginning to tell me, all right, it's time to quit. But I'm going to go just a little bit further for the sake of the video. And now I'm getting a little bit of a stinging sensation, like an overly peppery flavor on the tip of the tongue through the sinuses. But, you know, as far as, you know, my opinion of the cigar, I think it's fantastic. I love it. Very, very enjoyable stick. Very full-bodied, very full flavor. I think this is far superior to the STC blend of the special selection that I've had. Hands down, just a far better cigar. I really don't know how these compare to the Dom Pepin blend, because I haven't had one. I would imagine, since Dom Pepin's blending it, it's going to be a little, I don't know, just a little more full-bodied than the previous one. But again, you know, I haven't had one to really know. Now, throughout the course of the video, I've shot 2 direct messages to my Miami cigar rep. I haven't heard back from him. You know, again, I'm kind of putting him on the spot last minute as I'm doing this review. But at this point, I don't have an MSRP for you. I don't have a binder, I don't have a filler, and I don't have any additional information that goes beyond the Ruky being Nestor Miranda's nickname in Miami. So hopefully I'll hear back from Chris, you know, before this review gets published, and I'll have a little bit more of that information for you. I was digging around on the Outlaw Cigar website, and I'm still not seeing anything, just a forum post sort of promoting the line, telling you to buy it. But I haven't seen a link to a product in their sales database, nothing like that. I'm going to dig around. If I can find a for sale, you know, link somewhere pointing to some retailer, I'll provide that in the review. Otherwise, I guess try giving Outlaw Cigar a call. From what I'm reading, they are the exclusive retailer of this cigar up until it's released at IPCPR, at which point it'll be readily available everywhere, I assume. Again, they come in boxes of 5, and I really have no idea what the MSRP is. Being that it's kind of special, I would think it's going to be more than the $5–6 bucks that the standard special selection is. Again, the shape is probably going to drive the price up a little bit as well. But that's all I have for you. So I hope you enjoyed the review and the length of the review, nice and long. I know there's some of you that love it, there's some of you that hate it. But yeah, you know, I really like, I like this format. I like being able to just talk about the cigar, not worry about how long it gets. If it's a half an hour, it's an hour, you know, whatever the case may be. it's what it is. You know, I don't feel pressed for time. I feel like everything is flowing. I'm happy with the length, so they're going to keep being this long, despite the occasional negative comment I get about the sheer length of the video. I actually had someone contact me one time telling me that this 12-minute short ashes video I did, I should be able to fit 4 cigars in that review, or 4 or 5 cigars into a review of that length, and I thought that was kind of funny, but I don't know. Some people really prefer the shorter bits and pieces that you can find on YouTube and things like that. Some people love the 12 seconds reviews that Jerry and I sort of were tinkering with way back when. But again, these are just going to be nice and lengthy. You know, it's a podcast. It is what it is. So anyway, until next time, happy smoking.